For staying with us, this is Focus Nigeria. My name is Aniagwu. Now, the All Progressives Congress is once again at a defining crossroads as it conducted its state congresses across the country. Critical exercise expected to shape not only its internal power structure, but also its readiness for the 2027 general election. Now, state congresses are not just routine party activities. They determine who controls the party machinery at the grassroots and state levels, from ward executive to state chairman, and by extension, who wields huge influence within the party, especially in the conduct of primaries. State executives are in place, and the ruling party have said, swear them in before Tuesday. For a ruling party seeking to consolidate power amidst economic pressures, internal dissent, and growing opposition realignments, the stakes could not be higher. The APC has repeatedly described the congresses as a reaffirmation of its own internal democracy, yet questions linger. How did these state congresses play out? Will aggrieved factions feel accommodated going forward? And can the party avoid the internal crises that have historically weakened political parties ahead of the elections, especially since the advent of the Fourth Republic in 1999? Now, in the first part of our discourse today, we will examine what these state congresses mean for party cohesion within APC, power balancing among governors and national leaders, and the broader roadmap for the APC ahead of the 2027 general election. My guest is Aniagwu, a member of the APC and Commissioner for Works and Public Information in Delta State. Stay with us as we go into this discourse.
With the federal government, we have unlocked opportunities for enhanced collaboration, accelerated infrastructure development, strengthened security architecture, and expanded economic prospects for our people. I congratulate all the newly elected party executives at the state, local government, and ward levels. Your emergence is a call to service. It is my earnest expectation that you will justify the confidence that has been reposed in you. To all our party members, especially our leaders at all levels, I say well done for the peaceful and successful conduct of the congresses.
We shall always strive to ensure the unity and progress of our party. As many of you here will testify, I have been consistent in my political journey as a consensus builder and staunch party loyalist. Together with my colleagues in the executive, we shall continually uphold the values that our great party, the APC, holds dear. Values of hard work, integrity, consistency, transparency, and teamwork.
Thank you so much for staying with us. Let's get started with our first discourse, APC State Congresses, outcome and future, and implications for the party in the forthcoming 2027 general election. Aniagwu is the Commissioner for Works and Public Information in Delta State. He joins us virtually from Asaba, the capital of Delta State. Thank you so much, Ehedu. Good to see you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Amechi, for having me this morning.
So, state congresses concluded, local government congresses coming before that, ward congresses coming before that. The only one remaining is the National Convention end of this month in Abuja. It appears APC is almost ready for the next general election.
You are very, very correct. I'm happy that you have also followed through a number of these processes. You recall that sometime last year, November last year, the party had a NEC meeting where it was approved that they were going to have congresses across the different local government areas, the wards, and of course the state, preceding the National Convention. And so after the president address, where he made it clear that all party members need to be carried along, different states went to work. And here in Delta, our governor, being somebody who carries everybody along, impresses upon all of us. He first of all made sure that we had a stakeholders meeting. And at that stakeholders meeting, all strata of the party, both those who were foundation members in 2014 and those who joined along the line, and those of us who also joined on the 28th of April 2025, were all brought together.
Yeah, you talked about everybody being carried along, a presidential directive. But you know, when it comes to ambition, carrying ambitions along is a problem for politicians. Perhaps in the weeks or months to come, we'll see how everybody were carried along in those exercises.
Well, if you were in Asaba yesterday, but I know because I saw at the beginning of your program, you played part of what happened, the views of our governors as expressed on the ground of that Congress, and then the remarks of the elected state chairman of the party. I was also on that particular ground at the cenotaph here in Asaba. You could see the convivial atmosphere. It was a very colorful event. Everybody that came to that place, more or less, were like a family members coming together to decide the fate and the fortunes of the party going forward, in addition to how we can also use the party to bring further development of our dear state. And so what made that of Delta quite unique is the level of consultation that the governor ensured happened across the length and breadth of the 25 local government areas. Leaders were asked to consult in their local government areas, after which there were some form of a senatorial consultation. And then thereafter, there was also another meeting of leaders in the government house in Asaba, where it was a discuss as to how the party could progress. And of course, you know that in this part of the world, there are certain primordial sentiments around the issues of either senatorial districts or certain divisions that exist in states, in each of the states. In our own case, just like every other state, we have 3 senatorial districts. So there have been a whole lot of constitution along that line, right from 1999 when the democracy returned to our country, where you do have that if a chairman of a party is emerging, most of the time, it comes from the same direction where the Speaker of the House of Assembly comes from. That's the same senatorial district. You have the governor and the deputy governor also flowing from the same senatorial the governor and the deputy speaker flowing from the same senatorial district. And then, of course, the deputy governor and the majority leader flowing from the same senatorial districts. All those arrangements usually happen in our own state. And that is what has also happened. And you see that before we joined on the 28th of April last year, of course, you expect that the party then, being opposition party, individuals would have been able to have their ambition moving along certain lines, believing that it will come to their turn. But the moment you now have a governing party coming in, all those equations need to be brought on board, because you needed to be able to look at where is the governor from, where is the deputy governor from, where is the speaker from. All those is with a view to carrying everybody along. And Oboruri is somebody who believes that carrying everybody along helps development, helps unity, helps progress, and of course brings about security. And that is why Delta today is one of the most peaceful states, because he tries as much as possible to ensure that everybody is carried along from the beginning. And so that event yesterday speaks to the ability of the governor to unite all the segments of the party, in addition to also bringing on board all aspects of our state. Today, the 3 senatorial districts that were very much taken care of in the composition of the leadership of the State Executive Committee of the APC in Delta. And that, to a very large extent, will make winning much more easier, because you would have reduced the issue of friction. Yes, no matter how much you try, you could have one person or the other who may not flow along that line, but overwhelming majority are on the same page.
Well, perhaps no problems in Delta, but elsewhere, we are seeing some other developments. So some people expected bigger problems within the APC as it conducts these state congresses, but it didn't play out. In isolated places like Benue State, where parallel congresses were held. Perhaps in other places we didn't get to see these parallel congresses, unlike in the past. Now, what does this speak about the unity of APC and its ability to accommodate interests, even at national level?
Well, like I mentioned earlier, on the 29th of November last year, when the party had this NEC meeting, the president was very, very clear in being the leader of the party, in advising every member of the party to try as much as possible to have both national interests and the party's interests at heart. And not long ago, we were also in Abuja, where we had the ambassadors, the Renewed Hope Ambassadors Summit, the vice president also specifically with respect to Benue that you mentioned, advised the secretary to the government of the Federation, George Akume, and then Ilya, the governor of Benue, for them to see the need to work together. I want to believe that in the course of time, they'll be able to smoothen those edges. But that directive of the president, and the president not also wanting to put his hand in the states, is why you are seeing a whole lot of peace across many of the states in the Federation. Because the situation where you may have individuals sitting in Abuja and wanting to direct who becomes the chairman, who becomes the deputy, who becomes secretary, which is what some persons in different places wanted. They just wanted where they can jump the powers that be at the levels of the state, where they are not clearly positioned to compete, and they want that kind of tradition. But good enough, the president says no, that internal democracy is important for the party to be able to survive what many had predicted before now when they talked about implosion. Implosion comes when you see individuals who are not satisfied with certain arrangements or they are not carried along. This directive of the president, which is being carried out by a whole lot of governors, and particularly here in Delta, our governor ensured that everybody is carried along, and that even him as a governor, by the time they were constituting the local government ESCO, you could see that even the governor have to go back to his own local government. He had meetings with his people in his local government. He did not say that because he's the governor, let him just sit in Asaba and impose whoever is going to be the chairman of the APC in a Ugbe local government where he comes from. The governor sat with his people. That same example was what happened in different places. Of course, you know the former governor, Okowa, I happen to come from his local government. He also invited those of us who are from his local government. He did not use his weight to say, let it be Mr. A or Mr. B. All of us were involved in that discussion. And because the governor showed that example, every other leader at the different local government didn't have any choice than to follow, which is also why I said that what the president said and the directive he gave, and the fact that he's not also imposing anybody at different states, is why we have the peace we have. Well, I just do hope that as we make progress in our democratic joining, that leaders will acknowledge that indeed at different levels, you also have smaller leaders who can also take certain decisions. And so allowing those smaller leaders to take this decision is the reason why you are having the peace you are seeing today. So you have largely reduced number of persons that may be disgruntled. I talked about a while ago the issue of a primordial arrangement that usually happen in any political setting. Those primordial arrangements were taken into cognizance in the case of Delta as to where the chairman comes from, where the governor comes from, where the deputy comes from, where the speaker comes from, and majority of other positions that you have in the political arrangement. That, to a very large extent, gives individuals in these different groups and different political partitioning some sense of belonging. Okay. So that at the end of the day, it's not just about the interest of those who want to become, but the general interest of the state and what could also promote the party. And so here in that, we're happy that we have a governor who is leading us along the charge of Mr. President.
And so we saw endorsements of the president as the party's candidate, APC's candidate for 2027 presidential election. Almost every state that had Congress endorsed the president. Did we also see that in Delta?
They are coming behind time. We have already done ours a long time ago. You recall when we joined the APC on the 28th of April 2025. And we have also had several meetings, like the different stakeholders meeting I talked about. That endorsement has taken place long time ago, that where the president goes is also where we go with respect to the 2027 general elections. Of course, you know, this is a party matter. The president, by the grace of God, is going to become the candidate of the APC, having been given the right of first refusal. And if that be the case, we will not sit down and begin to now endorse the presidential candidate of another political party. And so it is given that as members of the party, as persons who believe in the renewed hope for more agenda, that indeed we will work seriously to ensure that the president wins the election. There are a whole lot of advantage that we have gotten by being by navigating towards the center. Don't forget, our governor led the pack. We were the first to move. And when we moved, some persons thought that we were joking. But at the end of the day, you have seen what happened after we moved.
So what you people in Delta saw earlier is what others are seeing now. The late
That's what they are seeing now. So you hear them
APC.
talking about endorsement now. They are actually coming late in the day.
Okay.
But it's a good thing that
you heard the governor of Enugu State list out benefits of keying into the center. Some will call it plug or socket into the center, which Delta was one of the first to do. Is it a mere political statement to justify your defection? Or are you seeing tangible benefits? Because I'm raising this issue against the backdrop of statements created to Zamfara governor, that he believes what is due to Zamfara from the center is not getting to Zamfara, probably because they're in opposition. So is it only for those that are socketed or plugged into the center that are enjoying their fair benefits from the Nigerian Federation?
I don't think that is so, but because I do know that in Anambra we have Abga being in charge. Soludo has made it clear that the president has shown them equal love. In Abia State, where we have Lesotho, the same thing has happened. You remember when the Lesotho was talking about the airport in Abia, the effort of the federal government, and then how it's collaborating with the federal government to ensure that that airport is not just an airstrip. And so, even before we joined the APC, the president was not neglecting us. But you do know that in a house where you have a sitting room, most likely you will have the dining room, the session being close to the sitting room, and then somehow around the corner you will have the kitchen. But of course, those who are in the kitchen will first of all taste the real taste of the food before those who may be enjoying it, the aroma with their nose and their nostril in the sitting room. And so being a member of the party with the president means that you are in the kitchen. And so you are not only going to be perceiving the aroma from the sitting room, you are of course going to also ask them to use the spoon to bring whatever meat that is in that soup first before those who may be enjoying it with their nose.
To test for salt.
Yes, you are very correct. The president has actually shown.
The problem is that in testing for salt, you go beyond testing to eating.
You can even also enjoy the meat. You can also beyond testing the salt to see whether the meat is also properly salted. That can only happen if you are in the kitchen. You don't begin to do salt testing in the sitting room. So you could understand when our governor here in Delta said that we are very solvent. It is because there are certain policies that the president has put in place that brought about that solvencies. There are a whole lot of things that has happened. Unfortunately, maybe at the center it has not been properly communicated. A whole lot of development have taken place. It is true that there is some form of a hardship that people have experienced on account of those reforms. But the fact is that there's a whole lot that is happening today. You talked about the issue of the fuel and how people approach the filling stations and then get their vehicles filled. You talked about the fact that people are no longer demonstrating in states for non-payment of pension and many other things that are happening. At the moment, I am not the one charged with the responsibility of speaking for the center, but there's a whole lot that is happening on account of some of these policies that the president, the federal government have initiated that is helping the subnationals. And our governor in Delta have always appreciated the president for making our state to be solvent. And our governor have said, if in your state, your governor is not deploying your money, go and hold your governor. In Delta State, our governor is now known for taking mega projects in their several billions. And as I'm speaking to you, he has given directives for us to ensure that every local government ahead of our next ESCO is indeed taken care of, and massively. We are talking about in the billions. And so where you have states budgeting several billions, and you now have the capital side of the budget overtaking the recurrent side of the budget, which has always been the case before, you know that there is, of course, a whole lot of changes. We do hope that at the subnationals, that many of the leaders are also able to take a cue from what Governor Borowori is doing in Delta to ensure that the people's money work for the people. We are not there yet, but a whole lot of progress is being made, and we are quite confident that progressing along that corridor, we'll be able to record the appreciable progress. So
direct primaries or consensus, as we have seen in some states of the Federation, mostly consensus. Two options are prescribed by the 2026 Electoral Act.
Well, first of all, you must understand that at the level of internal issues in the party, there are a whole lot of decisions that are taken, which goes with both the laws of the land as passed by the National Assembly, and then, of course, the internal programs of the party. In our case, there's a whole lot of consensus building. The consensus didn't happen at the election ground or the Congress ground. The consensus actually had happened even long before the Congress ground, because there are a whole lot of consultation that took place. Leaders were invited. If you could take a look at the picture of what happened in Asaba yesterday, you will see that even foundation members of the APC who joined the APC as far back as 2014 when the party was formed, the likes of Otega Amero, who was the leader and contested the election in that 2015, was the one who even seconded the motion for the dissolution of the existing ESCO. The likes of Uche, who was our former speaker and who had also before now joined the APC, was the one who moved the motion. The person who put the question is the chairman of the APC in the state. So you could see the whole lot of buy-in. The minister of the representing the Delta State in the Federal Executive Council, Festus Keyamo, was very much present, and a whole lot of other persons, our senators that were very much present at that particular arena. And so we are happy that the governor was able to bring everybody on board, those who indeed have the interest of the president's success in the next election, and indeed the success of our party also in Delta State, and who believe that that success could lead to further development of our state. And so if there are one or two persons who did not attend, we believe that along the line, they will find their way back and retrace their steps.
Okay, now, a lot of people believe that the provisions in the Electoral Act that prescribe only direct primaries or consensus as a way of picking candidates is to favor the APC. The ADC has said it is a framework to return APC to power. How will you respond to that?
Anybody who hold that view is, first of all, indicting themselves with regard to their ability to coordinate and carry everybody along. It would have even been much more difficult for a ruling party that has a whole lot of divergent interests to be able to reach a consensus than a party that is not in power. If you recall, in 2014, when the APC, a lot of legacy parties came together to be able to form the APC, you could see that along the line, they were able to bring in a whole lot of consensus agreement around the issues and decisions they took, which led to the likes of the president supporting and leading a whole lot of persons from the then ACN to support the emergence of Muhammadu Buhari. And at the end of the day, they were able to win the election. Politics, they say, is a game of number. And you need to be able to build consensus around certain interests to be able to galvanize the views of those different individuals who may have their divergent interests, and at the end of the day, marry it along the line of the party interest with a view to winning election and forming government. So I want to believe that if individuals who are in these opposition parties are very much serious about indeed winning elections at any level, they will need to first of all bury their individual ambition and then look at their own collective ambition. I'm even giving them an expo, if it were to be an exam as to what they expected to do. But where you have everybody wanting to be the champion, even when they know those who are going to be likely to have more ground, but nobody wants to shift, and they are now blaming the ruling party for supporting the issue of a consensus agreement. Amechi, you know that in a place where you have a whole lot to distribute, it is more difficult to reach a consensus than those who don't have it. At the moment, you are talking about an APC that has over 30 governors, that has a whole majority of members in the National Assembly, that has virtually all the ministers. And these ministers, these governors, these House of Assembly and National Assembly members, and those who hold different federal appointments are from the different states. These are tendencies that are capable of holding ground. If these tendencies are able to agree in spite of their strength to say, let us move with one accord, how come those who don't have those strengths are finding it difficult to come together? What are they fighting for? When those who are holding the power and are deciding what happened can afford to agree, I expect that they should be able to bury their individual interests and look at their own collective interests with respect to their whatever their party stands for. So to begin to hold that ground is again trying to chase shadows. We do hope the president and indeed members of our party believe that the opposition need to survive for us to be able to have a strengthened democracy, for us to be able to have individuals who put those of us who are in authority or in government in check, so that individuals do not just continue to run according to their own whims and caprices. But in doing so, I don't want to believe that the ruling party will be the one to begin to give them the anecdotes that they desire or they do deserve to be able to take those decisions that will make them become victorious one way or the other.
We have to thank you so much, Aniagwu, Commissioner for Works and Public Information in Delta State. Thank you for giving us your time today.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Amici, for having me.
The stories now break online. Don't miss miss anything from our real-time updates and exclusive content, follow and participate in discussions on live TV studio programs to shape the narratives. Subscribe, engage, and share from AIT.live at AIT_online on X, AIT Online on Facebook, Official AIT Live on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads, AIT_live, and AIT Livestream 1 on YouTube. Stay connected with AIT. On air, online, on live.